Well, I think I got into the business of educating entrepreneurs really as a child, even though I didn't know it at the time. My father was an entrepreneur. He owned several businesses when I was a child. Unfortunately, those businesses did not succeed as well as I would have expected them to succeed. And in retrospect, I think some of the reasons for that is he didn't have the training, he didn't have the preparation that I think is important to be an entrepreneur. In addition, I have further background as a banker. I've bought a couple different banks in my lifetime, so I'm an entrepreneur as well. And in those experiences, it forced me to be around entrepreneurs constantly. Many of those entrepreneurs also did not succeed. And again, I think it was because they weren't prepared or educated to be an entrepreneur. Of course, in that situation, when they didn't succeed, the loans we gave them failed. So my businesses almost did not succeed as well because they did not succeed. I think that was really the catalyst for me. It was at that time that I decided I wanted to go back to school so that I can help people and teach people how to run businesses, which is something I thought I could do. So I went back to school and got my PhD, which allowed me to work for a university, a college, and teach people how to run businesses. What's happened over the last decade, 15 years or so, which is much different from when I got my MBA, is that many universities have a focus in entrepreneurship and therefore have created centers of entrepreneurship to teach others how to run businesses and to become entrepreneurs. When I was getting my PhD, this trend was really just beginning. Entrepreneurship, for whatever reason, was not a respected field of research. So many of us who were interested in entrepreneurship needed to concentrate in other areas. In my case, I concentrated in strategic management. And I did my dissertation on a topic which was really corporate entrepreneurship. And in that case, what I did was I focused my research on large companies that invest in entrepreneurial ventures. So I got my feet wet in entrepreneurship, but at the same time focused my dissertation on corporate strategy, which was what was respected at Columbia at the time. So that's how I kind of navigated in this field of entrepreneurship. Today, many scholars are recruited for entrepreneurship positions if they have a strategic management degree, but also entrepreneurship is much more respected as a field of study today than it was back then. So many programs, many PhD programs do have an emphasis on entrepreneurship. A little bit different than when I was in school. Today, many students know they don't want to work for a big company. Other students who work for a big company want to become change agents, which to me means taking initiative, it means taking chances, it means evaluating opportunities, which are what entrepreneurs are very good at. Entrepreneurs, of course, I think, are the best at understanding, identifying, and managing risk. That's one of the things they need to do to succeed, and I think it's what separates entrepreneurs from just managers. So the programs in schools today, the entrepreneurship programs in colleges today, tend to prepare students to start businesses, to manage businesses, as well as to be entrepreneurs within large corporations. At Georgia State, the Herman J. Russell Center for Entrepreneurship, named after Mr. Russell, who was one of the prominent African-American entrepreneurs in Atlanta, was named after him because he provided some funding for us over a decade ago. And I've been very fortunate enough to be the director of the center for the last 3.5 to 4 years.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Before I answer that question, I want to say that I'm really happy that that's an area of focus for you. The reason for that is many of the students that I get want to open up the dry cleaners, right? They want to open up the mom and pop businesses, whereas what I try to do is get them to think bigger. If they want to open up a dry cleaner, it should be a chain of dry cleaners, right? It should be a national chain of dry cleaners. I had a student a few years back who said, I want to open a barbershop. I took him aside, and started to mentor him. I think opening a barbershop is fine, but the way he needs to be thinking is big. He needs to be thinking, I want to open up the biggest chain of barbershops that there ever could possibly be. So what I'm trying to get our students to think about in terms of being bigger and larger and better than the mom and pop businesses are replicated businesses. One of the entrepreneurs who I interviewed on my national road trip, I was just reviewing his interview last night. He owns a hair salon, and he was talking about this very topic. How do we get our folks today, how do we get our young students today to think not just the one hair salon, but to open up the chain of hair salons? So the replicated businesses that you're about to study, I think, is wonderful. And the reason for that is because it allows a single business to scale. And that to me is that to me is the single most important thing that I try to get our students to realize today, is to think about scalable businesses that can grow, high growth opportunities. So I'm really glad that you're thinking about, or not thinking about, that you're going to pursue this this area.
Thank you.
The benefits are tremendous. I think one of the things we try to show our students is the idea of mentorship, so that if they can take a look at somebody who's done it before, who knows how to do it, who maybe has policies and procedures in place, who has a set of best practices, and the person can learn from that and replicate that, the person has a greater chance of success. For me, one of the things that I think is most important today, in fact, I've started another business whose motto is, success is not random. Neither is failure. The point being, we want to decrease the failure rate of businesses. I think if you can find somebody who's done it before and replicate what that person has done, you've increased your chances of success. So I think a person who is interested in a replicated business can increase their chance of succeeding because they can copy what somebody else has done. One of the initiatives that I have right now is Dr. Henley's Road Show. It's Dr. Henley's Road Trip is the formal name of it. And for this road trip, what my intent is to travel to all 50 states to interview entrepreneurs. I've got to probably 10 states already, and it's been wonderful. The entrepreneurs have really opened their arms to me for me to interview them. As part of this road trip in interviewing entrepreneurs, I'm certainly going to post the interviews on my website, but part of the purpose of this is to allow entrepreneurs to help entrepreneurs succeed. So in talking to entrepreneurs, I'm asking them, how did they get started? What are the things that they use to succeed? How did they finance their business? How did they market their business? Ultimately, there are several things that I want to do with this. One thing is certainly to write one or more books about entrepreneurship. So that, again, the goal is to help people become successful as entrepreneurs. But the other thing that I can do with that is, if you ask the question of how do you finance a business, well, I have many different answers that you could draw from to help you and apply that to your specific situation. So the road trip is something I'm very excited about. I love talking to entrepreneurs, I love helping entrepreneurs, and I see this as a tool that can be used to help other entrepreneurs succeed, which is my ultimate goal. Let's reduce the failure rate of entrepreneurship. The name of the organization that the road trip is being under is called The Next Entrepreneur. The Next Entrepreneur, of course, is everybody who's an entrepreneur knows that you always strive for something more. If you have the single dry cleaner, you want 3 more, the replicated business. Once you have your chain, you're still not satisfied, you want something more. So the Next Entrepreneur is designed to tap into that innate desire of entrepreneurs to do more continually. So the Next Entrepreneur is an organization that is, I'm just getting started, but is designed to help me achieve the goal of reducing the failure rate of entrepreneurs. Well, I appreciate your asking me. I look forward really to your studies and to learning more about replicated businesses and how they can help entrepreneurs.